see that I will achieve. Because I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now. I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow.
Yes, my Straight Dog family, we're going to keep moving on because it's time for me to say a very pleasant night to St. Kitts and Nevis, and a very pleasant night to the entire Caribbean region. I must as well extend greetings to all my Straight Dog family in the Kittitian and Nevisian diaspora who are all over the world. There's some of you in Africa. There are some of you in Asia. There are some of you in Europe. And there are a whole lot of you in North America. So I am at liberty to say good night. I will say good afternoon. And in some cases, I can say good morning, especially to my friends over there in the United Kingdom. It's morning time. Am I correct? Yes, it's morning time in your neck of the woods. But for those who may have joined me for the first time, I always have first-timers, so I'm not going to chance it and not recognize my first-timers and to inform you that Straight Talk is a public service program that facilitates and promotes free expression on all issues of national interest. Underline free expression, because, you know, at times they try to suppress your freedom of expression. But we provide that forum where we can discuss all issues of national interest, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, we do have a forum to express yourselves freely. Let us in the process strive. Let us just strive to get St. Kitts and Nevis back to that position on top as being, if not the freest, one of the freest countries in the world. On this program, we try to raise the level of national consciousness. We try to raise the level of national discourse by alerting our people to their rights, to their responsibilities, and certainly to their obligations. My name is Ian Patches Liebert, and I give Almighty God thanks for blessing me with yet another opportunity to join you in conversation on yet another occasion. And for tonight, we are going to discuss our short dissertation, which I have entitled An Unprepared Leader, the Federation Just Cannot Follow. But before we go into that, I normally do our observations in review, and perhaps there are any obituaries. I don't have any that has come to my attention, but in the event they are, I extend on your behalf profound condolences to those who may have lost loved ones. And my Straight Dog family, just to remind you as well to be strong, because death is just a process. And our observations in review is that time when we highlight the issues and engage in some reflection. We then ask a few questions. For example, what was accomplished? How has it helped others? What has changed since? And what can be expected next? Also, what new we have learned as a people. And quite a lot of things have not changed, although we have asked quite a lot of questions, because there's a new way, a new day, and a better way in terms of this new paradigm, it seems, of transparency. There are some people who set their own definition as it relates to the transparency we hear so much about. And our first observation, I came across a news item to wit the Governor General, Her Excellency Dame Marcella Lyburn, after consultation with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, has designated Reverend Bishop Cyprian Williams to act as ombudsman. So the acting ombudsman was installed, we are told, as part of the government's good governance transformation. And I find it very interesting because this pastor and my friend was seen campaigning like hell during the last election. So the question that arises is straightforward. Is, will he stand up to this already proven vindictive government and protect the rights of citizens and ensure that we all are protected? Because that's what the ombudsman is expected to do. So, in the process of congratulating my good friend and brother and Reverend Cyprian, and Bishop as well, Cyprian Williams from over there in the Green Valley area, I must guide him and implore him to be guided by the principles within the good book, that you must be fair and do things without fear as well. So that's F-A-I-R and F-E-A-R are the two words that come into play at this moment. Our second observation goes back to last week when I spoke excuse me, about an SKNIS release dated way back to October 2022. That's about 6 months ago. And this release reported that the General Manager, Chairman and Secretary of the Solid Waste Management Corporation and its Board of Directors, its entire board of directors were respectively removed. Unless it happened today, I am to advise that since that time, there has been no replacement of these officers, and the question looms, and Straight Talk continues to ask, who is running the Solid Waste Management Corporation? Because the Solid Waste Management Corporation Act is quite clear, as Section 5, subsection 1 speaks to the corporation having a governing body to be known as the Board of Directors. And the language is quite clear. There is no room for discretion, as the law is pellucid, as my learned friend would say, because the act speaks to mandatory, or use mandatory language, I should say. It says the corporation shall, underline, shall have a governing body to be known as the Board of Directors. So my good friend and minister, Dr. Clark, I urge you to put that wrong right and get the Solid Waste Management Corporation running in accordance with the legislation, since the buzzword in everybody's mouth or coming from everybody's lips is good governance. The other observation as well speaks to the Social Security or the Social Security Board. And we know quite a lot have been said and continues to be said about the Social Security Board and the issues as it relates to its discriminatory approach in respect of delinquent contributors to the Social Security scheme. And one of the main ones, as we know, and we will not stop talking about it until something is said to the nation, because as we speak, my Straight Talk family, there are some 54 persons, unless lawyer Charles has withdrawn all those cases, but there are 54 persons before the magistrate's court on 4 summonses as it relates to violation of the Social Security Act. But the Social Security, according to the information that has come to Straight Talk, seems to be operating with 2 boards, although only one apparently is being paid. The Minister of Social Security, who is in fact the Prime Minister, has not responded to this serious anomaly. Although, again, he speaks so often about good governance. Because it has come to the attention of Straight Talk that 2 memoranda were actually sent to the then director, Antonia Maynard, or rather one was sent to the then director, Antonia Maynard. And I said then director because the Social Security Board is such an important institution in this country. And the director was removed or resigned, or we don't know, because it all has been done in a secret, or in a secretive way, I should say. Antonia Maynard has gone into oblivion, if that's the right word I can use, but the country knows nothing about that. But on the 1st of December, this memorandum was written to the attention of Antonia Maynard, then Social Security board's director or director of the Social Security Board. And the subject it refers to is the regularization of process and empanelment of board and abrupt cessation to members terminated per Section 10, subsection 1, and Section 11, subsection A of the Social Security Act. And it reads, and I quote, "Dear sir, my earliest conversations with you touching on related matters refers. I hereby submit this memorandum for your attention and due consideration. The two main points of discussion are as follows. 1. The appointment of new members of the Social Security Board, ostensibly to replace members whose terms had not run to full maturity, cannot be properly effected without the requisite vacation of said officers in keeping with the provisions of Section 11, subsection A to subsection E of the Social Security Act. If such were to have been purported to take place, the corporate secretariat of the board will need to advise the minister to regularize the situation with undue delay in order to avoid an undesirable statutory dilemma and an audit censure. The summary discontinuance of the financial obligation, this paragraph 2, to members whose terms of office have been purported to be vacated pursuant to the prerogative of the minister under sections 10, subsection 1 and 11, subsection A, represents a violation of the laws of natural justice and the principle of legitimate expectation under contract and administrative law. The pertinent facts are as follows. As at 3rd August 2022, the membership of the Social Security Board consisted of 11 persons: Mr. Ernest Pistano, Chairman; Mr. Victor Earl, Deputy Chairman; Mr. Farron Lawrence, Employers Representative; Mr. Carl Claxton, Employers Representative; Mr. Frank Farrell, Employees Representative; Ms. Jennifer Williams, Employees Representatives; Mr. Oscar Walters; Mrs. Candice Keynes Dickinson; Ms. Dorita Rowland; Mr. Lennox Liebert; and Mr. Cecil Hamilton. A 12th member of the board, Mr. Trevoy Liebert, has passed away earlier in the year, and no one had as yet been appointed in his place to complete his term of office. The statutory limitation on the number of persons to serve at any juncture is 12 members. Following the general elections of 5th August 2022, and by virtue of the subsequent swearing in of a new cabinet of ministers, and indeed a new government administration, a new Minister of Social Security was named as Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, who is also the new Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. At some point following the general elections, and still early in the month of August, the chairman, Mr. Pistano, informed other members of the board that he had submitted his resignation. Word also soon made the rounds that another member, Mr. Lennox Liebert, had also submitted his resignation. With a deputy chairman still in place, a question raised by some members was whether a meeting could in fact proceed in the case of vacancy in the office of chairman, which was felt to be a different matter from absence of chairman as coined as Section 7 of the legislation. In any event, the corporate secretary appears to have exercised its discretion in suspending the calendared monthly meetings, that should be calendared monthly meetings of the board out of deference to the new minister and administration. It is believed that such a measure would provide the platform for the new minister and government to bring to bear his or its new vision as regards the short to medium term future direction and operations of the Social Security Fund. During this waiting period, different actions attributable to the office of the Minister of Social Security resulted in the eventual announcement of a new panel of members of the board by press release dated 21st October 2022. The public received notice of the appointment of a new chairperson and 5 members of the Social Security Board. An SKNIS Facebook post dated 17th November 2022 presented a panel including an additional 6 members, 3 of whom had already been in service in the persons of Mr. Farron Lawrence, Mr. Carl Claxton, and Mr. Oscar Walters. It has subsequently come to the attention that the meeting of the board was held on Wednesday the 23rd November 2022, to which apparently the new announced panel had been invited. To date, the other 6 members who previously formed part of the panel, Earl Farrell, Williams, Keynes Dickinson, Rowland, and Hamilton, had received no notification that their terms of office had been vacated. However, it was observed that the monthly paid board fees were not paid to the 6 named individuals at the end of November 2022. Section 5 of the Social Security Act, which deals with terms of office of members, provides for the appointment of members of the board at this juncture in the life of the fund to serve for a period of 3 years. In my own case, my term of office was stipulated to be from the 1st of August 2020 to 31st July 2023. The Act also provides at Section 10, subsection 1, for the prerogative of the minister to terminate the services of any member at any point if the minister deems it expedient. There need not to be any just case such as failure to perform or misbehavior or similar breach of fiduciary obligations, etc., on the part of the member. This prerogative is certainly not an issue. In fact, the law prescribes at Section 11 the different scenarios that would give rise to the termination of the term of membership of any member, the circumstances under which a member could be deemed to have vacated office include the minister's prerogative of discretionary termination, along with the other causative factors listed in that section. In the case of the minister's prerogative, it may well be a matter of settled law that a member terminated in that manner should be treated fairly in keeping with 2 well-grounded legal principles, being the laws of natural justice and the contract law and administrative law, principle of legitimate expectation. In this case, fair treatment envisages that the person affected should be compensated in lieu of his or her unilaterally by the minister not being afforded the opportunity to complete the full membership term. For everyone who would have availed herself or himself to serve with the understanding that the law prescribes a membership term as 3 years, it would constitute a travesty against the laws of natural justice and the principle of legitimate expectation to summarily terminate the service of such a person without requisite notification and, importantly, without adequate compensatory relief. Aside from any other ex gratia arrangements in place as regards to special gratuity for long-serving members, there is a basic understanding that a premature ending of a membership term by the decision of the minister, albeit in exercise of a legal prerogative in keeping with Section 11A, carries with it a legal obligation to treat the affected person fairly. Two significant points for reflection are: one, a member would have relied on the assurance of the prescribed duration of a term of office and may have made relevant sacrifices, possibly all tantamount to considerations as in contract law. The possible detriments to her or his personal advantages can be limitless. Natural justice contemplates that such an administrative decision would be accompanied by an obligation to treat the affected person fairly. Connected to the first point, a member would have expected to be remunerated in keeping with the prescribed duration of the term, barring death or any applicable circumstances outlined in Section 11, subsection B, C, D, and E of the Act. In light of the foregoing, I wish to suggest that you may be in a position as the custodian of the corporate secretariat to use your good office to advise the minister to regularize the situation regards the composition of the board by issuing the requisite instruments of termination to those who will not be required to continue to function as members. Since the administrative act of payment of remuneration to members is executed by the corporate secretariat, the board ought also to provide guidance on the record to mandate the secretariat to institute the proper approach in keeping the two legal principles mentioned earlier. I would not wish this matter to be contentious or acrimonious in the least. I would wish it to be treated simply in keeping with the express inclination of the government administration to pursue a path of good governance and the rule of law. This would be both an expectation and a fitting legacy in line with the pronouncements made by our Prime Minister and Minister of Social Security, the Honorable Dr. Terence Dew, and the Attorney General, Mr. Garth Wilkin, respectively, Cecil Hamilton. And this, I must admit, is a worthy memorandum. And just to add that a second memorandum was dispatched to the Acting Director and Corporate Secretary, Miss Marilyn Johnson. And this is a two-pager, and it basically repeats the same, and it, in a nutshell, refers to the first communication, and it relates to the appropriate requisite modus operandi to give effect to entitled decisions of the minister to reconstitute the panel of members of the security board. So, in fact, you have two boards, it seems, running parallel, because one board was not terminated according to the law, and another board was appointed. So in the spirit and in the promotion of good governance, the minister with responsibility for social security, and if he still has that authority, moral authority, to deal with these security matters, the Attorney General as well ought to address the matter. Whoever the Attorney General is, if he has that moral authority to deal with the social security, having violated the laws of the social security, if Garth Wilkin has that authority, then he too can advise the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, Social Security, beg your pardon. And my Straight Dog family, one other observation is the fact that I must report that the Bar Association has to date not responded to the communication sent to them now. I think it's going into its third week. So in due course, we will tell you what will be the next action steps that would be taken. But our final observation tonight, it relates to an incident that occurred last week, Wednesday, I think it was. I stand corrected. I think Wednesday it was, yes. Right after Prime Minister Dew concluded his interview on a popular radio station. After that interview, the world saw this DJ and talk show host brandishing or displaying a 380 semi-automatic pistol. The way this DJ and talk show host handled the pistol showed that he had no training whatsoever in the handling of small arms and or small arms safety. In colloquial terms, it was like a monkey playing with a gun. But how such an irresponsible individual can be granted a firearm license is the question of the day. Is it because he interviews the Minister of National Security and Prime Minister on a regular basis, or because of his hardcore Labour Party support? These are pertinent questions. And other questions are being asked, which include, should this DJ and talk show host continue with a firearm license? And that's a fair question. And the final question I have been asked, and have been sent to me as well, is what is St. Kitts and Nevis coming to? Haitians seek asylum. Now it looks like monkeys coming from St. Martin holding guns, only in St. Christopher. And those are my observations in review tonight, my Straight Dog family. And it's now 8:31, right on time, to embark on my thesis tonight, an unprepared leader, the Federation just cannot follow. My Straight Dog family, a leader that any country cannot follow is one who lacks the qualities of a good leader. And in his book entitled Leadership, Henry Kissinger, the 98-year-old Nobel Peace Prize winning and former U.S. Secretary of State, opined that perhaps more than any time since the Age of Enlightenment, the world is entering a period of disruption that needs thoughtful leaders. And the internet, he continued, is not helping to produce them. Now, when I read the latter, at first my mind flashed on the Jew Labor Administration, whose team members seem to be hooked onto the internet from the onset and all plan to govern the country via Facebook. More than that, however, Prime Minister Joe seemed to have immediately buried his head into the sand of reality, whenever he discussed the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. After the first 7 months, it can be predicted that the results will be disastrous, catastrophic, I may add, for our two beautiful islands of St. Kitts and Nevis, unless the cabinet takes needed steps to alter its current course. 3 of the early characteristics demonstrated by the Prime Minister are: 1, he is economic with the truth; 2, he is a divisive leader; and 3, he often seems to speak from a point of ignorance. Now, Prime Minister Drew, in my view, inherited a political situation in which the leadership of one of the most, if not the most successful administrations in the history of the Federation self-imploded because of power and greed. One said he was going to be the kingmaker, one leader, and the other said he was ready to become prime minister. Now, I know that some of you feel upset or get annoyed with the view on the success of the Team Unity administration. But if you take umbrage with that fact, then you must provide the evidence to the contrary. Because whether we like to hear it or not, it was Prime Minister Harris who navigated the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis out of its economic doldrums of the early 2000s. It was Prime Minister Harris who paid off the balance remaining on the IMF loan of US $84 million, which was approved on July the 27th, 2011. Lest we forget, as of December 2010, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Government, or the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Government debt, I should say, was US $1.2 billion, which was equivalent to 199.2% of the 2010 GDP. Local banks held 70% of the St. Kitts Nevis debt, or US $734 million, whereas the Social Security Board held another 10 or 11% of the debt, or US $114 million. 1/4 of our debt was owed to external creditors, primarily commercial banks, 46%, or US $488 million, and 10% to the CDB, which is the Caribbean Development Bank, or US $105 million. The liabilities of the SSMC, which amounted to 11% of the public debt, were assumed by the Douglas Labour administration in 2005 when the 300-year-old sugar industry was closed over the dead body of then Prime Minister Douglas. Under the said Labour administration, crime in St. Kitts was considerably higher than many other parts in the world. In 2012, St. Kitts Nevis had a homicide rate of 33.6%, or per 100,000 citizens, the 8th highest in the world, and the 7th highest during the period from 2005 to 2014. As of 2011, Basseterre had the highest murder rate of any capital in the world at 131.6%, or 1 per 100,000 inhabitants, a total of 70 murders in the city that year. And the source is the Global Study on Homicides of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, dated 2013. And what happened under the Team Unity administration in 2022? Law enforcement in St. Kitts Nevis reported an improved 43% in the rate of detected crime for 2021, the highest rate in 20 years. The internationally accepted crime detection rate is 33%. How could we forget that there were 13 homicides in 2021? And under the Douglas Labour administration in 2011, there was a record number of 35 homicides. The successful build-out of programs in support of the Alternative Lifestyle Pathway Program, or the Peace Initiative, the Explorers Club, and better utilization of resources such as our CCTV monitoring system and the forensic lab complemented the efforts of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force in sustaining reductions in major crimes. What about the remarkable management of the COVID-19 pandemic? One never seen in 100 years, never seen in a whole century. Recall that the country's exceptional administration of the pandemic for 14 months only resulted in 45 confirmed cases. It was when we opened the country for business, and we had to do so, but then is when the number of confirmed cases went to the roof. But no matter what is said, the majority of us in St. Kitts and Nevis thank the Team Unity Administration for the Live First strategy it introduced. That is why today, compared to countries in the OECS region and further afield, we have only recorded 6,597 confirmed cases and sadly 48 deaths too many. As of today, March 2023, the total of confirmed cases stands at 6,597. No cases reported or imported in the last 14 days. The number of deaths still remain at 48. The number of persons tested, 935 persons tested. And the number of positive results, as intimated earlier, 6,597, giving us the number of negative test results to with 120,338. There are no pending cases or persons in quarantine at home or elsewhere. There are no persons in isolation. And that's the latest on COVID as it relates to St. Kitts and Nevis. And it's worthwhile repeating and extending kudos to all the nurses, all the doctors, and especially the HEOC, Health Emergency Operations Unit, I think it is, HEOC, I stand corrected. But we must commend our CMO, Dr. Hazel Laws, our retired Medical Chief of Staff, Cameron Wilkinson, and all the nurses, all the doctors, all those who worked on staff during COVID and after. My Straight Dog family, I think it was important, very important, to provide that snapshot, because our current leaders are obviously unwilling to recognize the importance of history. And I submit that leaders like Prime Minister Drew, who think that history must be totally changed, are usually, beg pardon, the ones who bring more suffering to the people. As I said, he's economic with the truth. Remember, he said this, my Straight Dog family.
We have been getting calls, lots of calls, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I imagine in other parts of the world it is day when it is the 4 in the morning here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have been bombarded by persons who are interested in investing in St. Kitts and Nevis. And of note, We have not seen any significant major investment in the last 7 years. And therefore, I think our people must know that people are ready to invest in St. Kitts and Nevis again.
And yes, my straight dog family, we ask, isn't the new cruise pier a significant investment? As a matter of fact, it's the largest capital infrastructure in terms of costs ever undertaken in St. Kitts and Nevis. EC dollars $141 million. Isn't that significant investment? You see all the cruise ships lined up, going alongside that second cruise pier. And to this date, our Prime Minister still remains or protrudes an attitude of being economic with the truth. Look at the infrastructure development. The team unit administration brought us into modernity. Traffic signals, bus terminals, Old Road Bay project. Old Road Bay will never be the same again, whereby rock fall or rock will fall or the soil will slip onto the oncoming traffic. I will never forget that a young man from my own constituency died across Old Road Bay one weekend from a rock falling onto the vehicle in which he was driving or being driven. Isn't these significant investment? But Prime Minister Drew told us that his word is his bond. Do you believe that?
I don't like to talk about things until I have it almost sealed. Our word is bond and will be what we say.
How could his word be his bond? And he meant what he said. How could it, my stray dog family? Is a question I'm going to ask. How could his word be his bond? And when he meant what he said about taking someone to court on the prison project for a crime. Yes, he said that.
The prison project alone is providing $2 billion that can lift everybody in poverty in St. Kitts and Nevis out of poverty. But that's a whole other big scandal by itself. The passports belong to the people. That money should be used for the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. Over $2 billion. That is a crime. It is a crime that the government is committing. That is a crime. Somebody needs to be brought to the court for that. It is not right that something like that should happen.
Well, it was a crime before he got into office. Or he committed the crime when he got into office. Because all of a sudden, the money sweets him, so he claims his famous word, he claims inheritance.
Now, the prison project is what we inherited. That had been signed by the previous administration. Of course, we thought that it would have been better to do housing than to go to a prison. Not that a prison is not important, but that was inherited.
All of a sudden, it's no longer a crime. He inherited it. He inherited it because he has signed over 3,000 certificates of registration for the issuance of passports. But it's a big secret. As to date, he has not addressed that question asked or posed to him some 3 months ago.
Good afternoon, LaShawn Dixon, St. Kitts Nevis Observer. My question to the Prime Minister You just mentioned that you're planning a trip to the Middle East to promote the CBI. Last time we had a count of how much CBI applications had been processed was in 2018. The question is, how many passports have been processed up until this date, and how many citizenship applications have you signed off on since in the first 100 days since taking office? And second question is, what is the general breakdown of nationalities who are willing to get citizenship, economic citizenship from St. Kitts and Nevis? And
Right.
is there a plan to put a cap on any nationality?
Is there a plan to?
Put a cap on
Right.
economic citizenship?
Right, so the questions you have asked are very good questions, and we'll have to get back to you on the numbers because they are very, very specific, and I don't want to not give you. All right, so we can always work on disclosing. We'll do that. Let me say on a number of things that you asked with respect to the numbers. Those are critical questions to ask, and we'll get back to you with respect to those numbers, and you can contact us as well to be specific. All right.
My grandmother, may her soul rest in peace, would have said that Prime Minister Joe lies like when a horse is trotting. Because months after, he still has not gotten back to the Observer. He still has not released the information. But that's the new day and better way under this new Labour administration. And he's a divisive leader because scores of high-level civil servants have been sent home with immediate effect by the new Jew-led Labour administration. His campaign mantra, "Get rid of them," has been taken right into government. One glaring example to date is the termination of the night watch security contract at the Joseph N. France General Hospital. There was absolutely no request for proposals published in any media as required by legislation, as I have searched high and low for same and have not seen any. Nada, not one. I can only conclude, therefore, that it may have been placed, that advertisement or that request for proposals may have been placed in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour chat group, of which I'm not a part. In a very divisive political campaign, Dr. Joe demonized all who oppose him. Since coming into office, he has signaled a clear intention that his new Labour administration will not unify and heal the country, but surely will continue to divide it. Democracy and good governance are once again under threat. And finally, he speaks from a point of ignorance, my straight dog family. Because a friend of mine from Grenada called me on Saturday and asked me, "Patches, who prepares my prime minister?" When I asked why, he pointed me to an interview with Callisto Faria, I think is on The View, is the program. I listened to the entire interview because I wanted to speak from a position or a point of authority. When the interview was ended, I asked myself, what did Prime Minister Joe say? And ironically, a friend of mine called me and asked me if I saw that interview. And he asked me the same question. What did Prime Minister say? He waffled. He said the same thing over and over again and not responding to the questions being asked. Truly, he went back to his road march about deficit. He went back to his road march.
We got into government and we look at what was taking place. We met a deficit. That had been a deficit that had been developed during 2022 up to the point that when we took office. And that, of course, presented some difficult challenges in terms of the economy.
Yes, he went back to his road march about deficit. Yes, in August, he claimed he met a deficit and an economy that needed a lot of work. But in 3 months, by November, he paid a double salary. But when asked on the Observer radio, where was the money coming from? Like most liars have no members, as my grandmother would say. He said this to Observer Radio, my Street Dog family.
You heard it straight from the Prime Minister's mouth. It's not a fake. All public servants will be getting a double salary. But PM, where is this coming from? Because here in Antigua and Barbuda, our government has not been able to offer stimulus to Antiguans and Barbudans during COVID. And we keep hearing of all these great initiatives in your country. Have you discovered oil somewhere in Bastia?
I can't say we have discovered oil. Let me say that each country has its own response, but this has been our response. I can't say we don't have oil. Of course, we had some monies put away for a long time now that we would use during a rainy day.
Yes, my Street Dog family, you don't have oil. Our country is in the red, in deficit, but he found money to pay a double salary in 3 months in office. And when asked on The View, just on Friday or Saturday, about funding a housing program, he said he has cash in the bank. Yes, we are still in deficit, but we have cash in the bank.
Prime Minister, you spoke of a housing program. Can you tell me when that is expected to begin and how many homes are you building? How many people are you catering for? Housing, a very important sector in any nation.
So we have put a task force together, which is being headed by Ambassador Leonard. We are seeking to build a number of houses. In the first instance, about 600. We have cash in the bank, and the bank is putting an instrument together which would have facilitated persons getting loans and be able to invest in these homes, their own home.
Cash in the bank. You know, my Straight Talk family, Prime Minister Drew comes across to us as someone who does not know. But he claimed that his team is filled with experts.
I'm tremendously proud of this team. This team is filled with experts in various fields. Any field you might call, there's an expert here, somebody who is well versed in that area, even more versed than me, and that's a good thing. So if I talk about sustainable development, you have Dr. Joya Clark. If I speak to youth and women affairs, you have Honorable Iselin. If I speak about small business and entertainment and agriculture, Honorable Samuel Duggins, well established. If I speak about energy and engineering and so forth, the Honorable Conway Maynard. If I speak about the law, it's a given for our AGS. When I speak about the tourism product and the advancement of labor laws and so forth, we have our learned Honorable who is a lawyer. When I speak about experience in government, we have our senior minister, the Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas. When I speak about education, and I mean, when you talk about empowering of the youth and community development, we have our Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Jeffrey Hanley. And so this team is a serious team.
Serious team. That one of his constituents used football to analyze the performance of the dual Labour administration. He likened their victory to scoring an offside goal. To many, this administration has lost favor with the voters in an expeditious manner. Or we can concur with this analysis, my straight dog family, of the new administration or the Jew Labour administration. We can, I'm sure, concur with this.
You know, I will tell you, I never see administration popularity wane so fast like this administration. This administration, they started off very popular, but I'm telling you, the popularity is way down right now. The Prime Minister himself, people actually now making mockery of him. After 7 short months, your popularity dropped so bad. You got to be you incompetent or something.
My straight dog family, there's an Arabian proverb which goes something like this. He who knows and knows that he knows is wise. Follow him. He who knows and knows that and knows not that he knows is asleep. Wake him. He who knows not and knows that he knows not is a student. Teach him. He who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. Shun him. My straight dog family, we summarize the performance of the Jew Labour administration. And we have concluded that we have an unprepared leader the Federation just cannot follow. That's my story tonight, and I am not going to change it. You may have a different story. So I will open the lines and entertain your calls. I'll entertain your emails. And if you're so minded to call, the numbers are 646-829-6672 or 869-663-6672. Both numbers have access to WhatsApp. If you're one who likes the cloak of anonymity, I normally call it, our email address is straighttalkpatches@gmail.com. That's STRAIGHTTALKPATCHES@gmail.com. I always like to implore you, and before I open the lines, as I'll do in a few seconds, to respect others. And of course, to achieve that, we must first respect ourselves. Let us be fair to all concerned. Let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. And in saying and doing those things, let it be beneficial to all concerned. And in the process as well of saying and doing those things, let us all strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. My lines are open, my straight dog family. Feel free to call. Again, the numbers are 663-6672 and or 646, that's the overseas number, 829-6672. I'll take this email in the meanwhile while I await your calls. I listen to those three biased, groundless fellows read this email, making all kind of excuses for the gunman on Freedom Radio. The owner, manager, said the gun was only examining it, or the gunman was only examining it, and he was not aware that the cameras were on. No wonder who these people are. They think they can fool with cock and bull foolishness, but they can't help, for they are scared of his rude, disrespectful, hot, abusive mouth. they are bound to agree with him, no matter what he say or does. The day the manager touch him, he will give him sand for sugar. Let's go to the lines. Caller, it's 904. Thank you for holding your live. Hello, caller.
Hello, Patches. What's up, man?
I am peaceful, my brother. You?
Oh, my God. Today is Monday again.
Yes, it is.
What's going on in the agriculture?
I intended to look at agriculture in its entirety tonight, but perhaps I'll do that on Thursday because nothing is really going on. There's the minister. I listened to him. I listened back a presentation he made, and he is promoting smart agriculture. I don't know if you know what that means.
No.
You don't? I'll tell you about it then. I'll tell you about that on Saturday. On Thursday, beg your pardon.
Okay. Oh, so you give a monkey a gun to play around in town.
They said someone look like a monkey holding gun. I don't know who that is.
Well, we gotta tell our family beware because the gun might go off up there and during the night we might get a shot. So we gotta tell him beware.
Well,
for an event.
Yes, well, you got to be careful in any case, anytime. Right? Yes.
But Patches, boy, you're the real good man, boy. You do pier, you do road, you do bus stop. Huh. You got a big legacy ahead of you, boy. You really do good.
Well, that didn't happen in 7 years, right? It didn't happen in the last 7 years. Nothing significant happened. You know, some people want to change that, want to rewrite history, but that will never happen. The people will determine that, nonetheless.
Right. Yeah. Lights. You put lights on the road. So, Patches, you need to go over there by over by those over there by the bypass.
Where's that?
Over by the bypass where the national hero.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
We got to give you the roses now. You're alive in a Patches.
No, man, no. That's what no, man. You know, I'm not. I'll remain a humble servant, my brother. But thanks for this suggestion.
Yeah.
Have yourself a good night, my brother. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
All right, my brother.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the lines. My straight talk family. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Hi, good night, Mr. Patches.
Good night, my dear.
Hi. My question is a bit different from your thesis and your pattern that you're taking. And my question is, would you want a unity government, say, when the next election comes around?
Well, the people wanted unity back then in 2014, 2015. And it did not come from the parties. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it did not come from the political parties. It, in fact, came from the people.
Certainly.
The difficulty one would have, though, right, is would people ever trust a coalition again? But from the records, the coalition of parties was the most successful period we had in our country.
Correct, I will agree.
So that, in a sense, answers your question in the affirmative, you know. But it is something we'll have to look at seriously again because it worked. It really worked, except for two people, you know. So I would say yes.
Okay, I concur with you, but as public knowledge that you were very close with Mr. Harris. Mm-hmm. Did you give him your opinion on when both parties or both leaders started coming publicly with what were happening amongst themselves. Did you give him any information or your opinion on saying, okay, guys, get together, don't break the unity set up? Did you give him any sort of information?
Well, to be honest, to be honest, no, I never interfered with it. I was not a member of the cabinet, but these are cabinet members, so I kept my place. The cabinet members could have sorted that out. They were all members of one cabinet, so I don't see, first of all, why they have to come to the public. They have all signed oaths of secrecy and that thing in cabinet. So I was not a member of the cabinet, so I never really got involved in it. Neither was.
Well, actually, recall at one point they said that they actually consulted mediation. So even if mediation came about, as knowing that you were close with him, I really thought that persons who were close to both leaders should have came in and said, guys, get together, see what you guys can do to make the unity work. Because for me, how I see it, and as I supported the unity togetherness, I felt that a lot of persons, both Labour supporters, PAM supporters, and PLP supporters, know they are dangling. And the reason why I say that is because everyone was being, from what I saw, from what I know, everyone was being taken care of. So there are persons who would have probably gone out to, not probably, there are some persons where opportunity now became available to them. They went to refinance loans and stuff like that. And then now they're no longer getting that cash that they were, say, salary that they were receiving within the last 7 years. So, persons are now in a little bit difficult financial situations because community made life better for persons. And I know that for a fact. So it is just sad that I know that a lot of persons are now struggling because they started seeing the light for all persons, PLP and Labour supporters. So it's unfortunate. But you know what I may say? I believe that there will be another unity, and I hope that they can work together in unity, and let's St. Kitts and Nevis strive, and we all will see that the country and the people could work together and have a healthy, successful life after the next 5 years, because I can see that it may not even be 5 years, it may even be sooner.
Well, I let's keep hope alive. I want to say something to you though, and to the listenership and viewership.
Sure.
I know there's this story being told about this extraordinary relationship with the then Prime Minister Harris and myself, right? But I want to make it abundantly clear, and it was said even within the cabinet. When we went and I entered into, I was assigned rather, the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. If I had been assigned the Ministry of Health or Education, I would have worked the same way and I would have done things because that's the nature of me. But what happened one time in cabinet is this. The Prime Minister then went to a meeting at the Central Bank and we put back the cabinet from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And when the Prime Minister didn't reach 11 o'clock, just about after 11, members in the cabinet wanted to start the cabinet. And I said then that I do not want to be part of this meeting for the simple reason. The Prime Minister is on the island, and I believe that someone should contact the Prime Minister, who is the chairman of the cabinet, and he would tell us whether we should proceed or not. And that created a big issue. I stood on a point of principle, and we had a big issue inside the cabinet. I got the 4 members from PAM, inclusive of myself, Sean Richards, Lindsey Grant, and Eugene Hamilton. And we met at Lindsey Graham's office the following day. And I looked at them, each one in the eyes, and said, if Sean was the Prime Minister, I would have taken the same position. If Lindsey was or Eugene was, I would have taken the same position. And they figured that I had something holding for Tim. I stood on a matter of principle.
So that's when everything went in between you. Okay.
Yeah, but I had the same respect for all of them, every single one of them, all my colleagues in the cabinet. There was nothing special for the Prime Minister. He's the Prime Minister. He's the head of the chairman of the cabinet. So you have to give him he appoints and disappoints. But I agree with you nonetheless that, I believe unity was the best thing we ever had in St. Kitts and for St. Kitts and Nevis. And, whether people will trust it is another thing, though, but it can work if people are really genuine and serious. But thanks for your intervention, though.
Okay, we had another conversation over that place over Forget Me, where we go and get our first nicely done up.
First what? Oh. Okay. I recognize
Have a good night.
Have a good night, my dear. Thanks a lot for your
okay.
Yes, okay. Let's go back to the lines.
Yes, I'm here. Good night already, brother Patrick.
I am peaceful. You have the equipment on? Yeah,
I don't move from now. You can hear me or you can't hear me?
I'm hearing you now, my dear brother. Not just me, I want the whole world to hear you.
Well, the whole world, yeah. Blessed night to you, good brother Patrick. And good night to you, listen. Good night to you, listeners, brother Radio. Listening to you on straight out with your YouTube and your Facebook, as they call Facebook. Now, I hear you make some emphasis about the indication of leadership and how it's playing out towards the aspect of the Prime Minister being within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I would like to give the indication that when you see how the ground levels from the way how these political aspects have been destroyed by the political leader now, who is now the Prime Minister, you see that he is a different farmer from how we are speaking. And I heard you play some clips, and one of the things I would like to emphasize in that clip where you play with the CBI program, I call in and challenging tonight the first Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, the second Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, the third Prime Minister, and the fourth Prime Minister, because it's time now we really understand what was the detail in this outline of the CBI program to emphasize the development of St. Kitts and Nevis in the capacity that it brings in the investment that it creates as a part of selling the passport to help enhance our people. And we're seeing our people still under the economical ladder. But here is it. When we say that we're supposed to be able to develop our people, we're still going out there to borrow money from them thief in World Bank and IMF. And then you're putting on some heavy tax burden on our people when we're going into our different development. So how could we rise? None of these leaders were down with people. I don't care much they have the qualification behind the level of their PhD. All of them are greedy for the benefactors. That's why you see we people here really see the emphasis of development until this day. We're still being beggars. And we say we're born beggars because we have been 400 years of slavery, and it's time now we see we are the developers of our own narrative to create who we are as a people and not as how they want us to be. So I hope these things will be challenged to the four leaders I call out tonight. The first Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Kennedy Simon. The second Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas. The third Prime Minister, Dr. Honorable Timothy Harris. And our fourth Prime Minister, Dr. Honorable Terence Young. That's why I'm challenging anyone or you to bring the indication of that CBI program to a full turn from 1983 to 2023. Let us hear the answer that we are hearing from our people, because we know it's a sickness we are dealing with, All I are Masons, all 4 Prime Ministers are members of the Masons. So it's time I come out and be frank with the people then. Blessed Lord, brother Patrick, you have a safe night.
Have a safe night as well, my dear brother Ras Ayo. But as I understand it, the primary goal of our country is establishing citizenship by investment programs is to attract foreign direct investment. You know, in our case, in addition, we attracted infrastructure development, the real estate development, and most of all, economic diversification. And of course, job creation as well, because from the real estate, you would anticipate that jobs will be created in the development of the construction area. Although some of the investors, especially the Chinese in particular, brought their own labor. I remember this one Chinese company was building when we just got into office, and believe it or not, they had 150 Chinese working on that particular construction site. And when we intervened, it was a advance that hiring local labor would have inflated the costs of their construction. And these 150 workers came through Nevis, believe it or not. But let's go back to the lines. Caller, thank you for holding your line.
Yes. Pleasant good evening. Pleasant good evening to you, Atlas.
Good evening, my brother. How about thou?
Oh, man. Thou is good, man. Even the pigeon gone, thou is good. But I got to say thank God for you, brother. You are letting the whole listening audience globally know what is going on in our little St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, I would like to say this here. That man who is the ombudsman, I want to know if he going down Church Street in his white and lay down sleep on a cot all night on Church Street sidewalk. And then in the morning he get up and he go home in headquarters, go use the bathroom and go home. What was he protesting against when he used to do that? Because he was told that the piece of land that he wanted, it was somebody else's land. And he was determined that he must get it. So that's the reason why he used to go protest. Well, now that he see that the administration that he used to protest against is out, and this administration is in with a load of lying promises. They promise to people that they're not going to do this. They're going to get rid of the $500 and they're going to give 1,000. But instead of increase it to 1,000, they reduce it from 500 to nothing. And that is a lot of people are suffering. I don't know how so many people get my phone number. But every day, the amount of phone call I get, I could do without eating food. Those phone calls could fill up my belly. Everybody saying, Lord, culture, Lord, I know you don't be on the radio. I'm afraid to call in. But please, boy, please keep it up, because the $500, what we used to get, some of us only got to put on $100 and maybe $50 on that and pay our rent. And then the little other money that we getting around, that could keep us. But now, nothing tall there. We have to go and scrabble now to get $500. I don't know what we do. We tired beg. I said, anyway, you all say get rid of them. Get rid of them to do all you want, you get in. I'm sorry that you got to suffer like that. But that can teach you all a lesson. Do not be ungrateful. Do not be like the dog with the bone. Dog had the bone, and before he satisfied with the bone, he see the shadow in the water and he drop the bone, going for the shadow, and he lose. He ain't got no bone. And that is what happened to you all. Things were good on the unity. Dr. Harris, he made the national debt belong to St. Kitts and Nevis. And he pulled down the national debt without borrowing money from anybody, without going to IMF. And now, look at what's happening here. They can't afford to meet the obligation that they promised. And everybody bawling, mother people suffering. And some people taking it so serious that some of them going insane. And I just hope that nobody wake up in the morning and when they don't see the neighbor and they go to look for the neighbor dead. We all have the dead. But I hope that will happen. Because people worrying, some people going crazy over this thing. But they can't believe that this man who calls himself Prime Minister tells so much a lie. So much a lie. You live in a country and so lie. Look what he said. In 7 years, the past 7 years, no investment in this country. Look at the amount of big ships dock up by the no investment pier down there. And he gonna talk about nothing happen. Look at the main road. Look at Old Road Bay. I could tell you patches. When I used to race bike, the Island Main Road was so bad that me and my good friend Tony Berry, we used to have to go frigate there any night and train around the second roundabout for an hour and a half. Now look at the road. I wish that I had my wheels and still riding bike. Let me enjoy Patches Road. Anyway, Patches, I'm going to come back with some little punches. So let me move, let other people get a turn. So I'll be back.
So you're the unofficial ombudsman then? You are the unofficial ombudsman.
Oh, yes. Oh, Lord, my God. Now, look at this now.
Okay, my brother.
Ombudsman? Well, he called himself a pastor. But I hope he do what the Bible say. Condemn wrong and uphold righteousness. Preach the gospel. Those who in administration of government. That man from Bunker Hill called Mr. Joe. And that man from Boardwalk called Mr. Wilkin. Both of them are doing a lot of wrong things to this country. They are breaking laws. And Mr. Ombudsman, speak out. And all the Evangelical Association and Christian Council and Bar Association, all of you, speak out against this wrong in the country. Speak out. The whole country now need to demonstrate against what's going on in this country here. It is wrong. It's embarrassing to the Federation. Even the one who used to say about fair share. You know it is wrong. It is wrong. And he was the one who started to break up the unity. Backstabbing. I'll be back, Patches.
Thanks for your intervention. As per usual, it's 9:27. My Straight Dog family, we're taking your calls. In the meantime, we'll read your emails as well. The government is really planning to take us back to the IMF. The wage bill is really going to get out of control with all these new appointments that it is creating with big salaries for the appointees. And the thing that bothers me is that some of these people are not even qualified for the posts they are given. We have too many square pegs in round holes. It's really payback time for all the loyal people who campaigned hard and sang for their supper. Then some of these people feel that because their government is in power, they could talk to you as they like and are even disrespectful to you. This government has no idea what it is doing, beg your pardon, and they need to go. Lord help us. Life in St. Kitts too hard now, and it has harder to get under labor. Read this email. This other email. So, Miss Marshall for Central Varsity, it seems as though you have resigned yourself to be a one-time parliamentarian because you are willfully ignoring the people of Central Bastia. People have concerns. You promise them help and you are not doing it. You are only helping your friends by placing them on various boards where they are being paid $5,000 a month. In addition to some of them monthly salaries. And you feel good about that. When you join with your team members to stop paying me the PAP $500, thanks, Marshall. You are right, reads this email. This other email reads, Patches, just a question. Has the former Chief Secretary Joseph Edmeade got back his job as Chief Secretary? Remember, in Douglas's government, he was Chief Secretary and Cabinet Secretary as well, in addition to he virtually was on every government board or corporation board. The reason I asked Patches, after he had retired in 2015, he never seemed to recover from the shocking defeat Labour suffered from Team Unity. He used to be sitting all about most outside Rams, Boardrock supermarket looking lost. People used to ask if he's working in Rams, but recently I see him dressed down in a long sleeve and tie, bamboozling around government headquarters. So I'm curious to know if he got back his job after inflicting so many years of injustice on civil servants, or is he another secretly paid advisor? Find out for me, Patches. Caller, I want to thank you for holding your live. Hello, caller.
Patches.
My brother.
Patches, good night.
Oh, good night, Jam Down. How art thou?
Why, I hear. But Patches, something bothering Basque here, but people mumbling and grumbling. Tell me something. Under your tenure, under the Team Unity construct, Dante Emery told me you were sent from my cabinet when you was a part of cabinet to go to Dubai to see what's going on over there. You can't leave. And out the blue for 10 years, the woman ain't touch home style, but she appear back in last year at the moment. So, I want to know the Attorney General and understand people's property yesterday, people's property today, the 20th of the month. We want to know what's going on. If this is a short game, and everybody really want the ton. Yeah, when you're calling them, but you couldn't do government work and the people work. It's troubling. All of us here this way. That is quickly. I ask me to ask you, what happening with the electoral reform and the boundaries committee? Is still active? Because I want to know if the census don't start and the boundaries committee don't start to meet. This is a big talking last year. We want to know if the fellow over Nevis undermine you know one extra seat. Because you know some of these constituencies is very big. And the court don't say we don't got to bring everything in line to get a proper reform. So I want you to expound on them too for me. Because I know Washington and forget the consulting in our patches. And I know you know that because we know that. Anyway, you have a good night, Patches.
Have a good night, my dear brother.
And keep the ball rolling on the wicket. Remember, you're going to play that. If you play that, you won't get out like before. So keep on the front foot.
The front foot.
Okay?
Thank you, my brother. You sound like a good cricketer.
Keep on the front foot.
And to keep your eyes on the ball.
That's right. That's what Mike Harris always tell us in Waller Park.
Yes, my brother. Yes.
Watch the ball come on to the back. Take your catches and keep the people walk going.
Will do, my
brother. That is I want to hear of the whole man. In Miami, when your friends stay listening straight talk, because you know we talk straight. Take care of yourself, Patches. I will be back. The element culture.
Take care of yourself as well, my dear brother. Jam down.
Yes, Patches. Explain on them people for me.
All the best as well. I'm not certain. I'll have to investigate that. I'm not certain whether the Electoral Boundaries Commission is already established. I am that one has beat me. I'm trying to also reflect. I know there are members nominated by the government and opposition, and also I think it's a chair. Am I correct? The chairman appointed by the governor general. But I'll do some research on it. But forgive me, I'm not really au fait right now. You've told me to keep my eyes on the ball and don't play back, right? But you've caught me out of my crease, stretching too far forward, and didn't keep my back foot on that line jammed down. But I'll investigate that. I've made a note of it. If I can do that before the show is completed, I will get you some information on that. But I want to get dispatch of these emails. I have quite a few emails have come in, and I want to get rid of them. Patches reads this email. I am wondering if Dr. Simmons is now a Labour man. Since Dr. Jew has become Prime Minister, every function Labour has, he is ever present and very early. Unlike when he was Prime Minister, was always late and vexed with those who came early. I don't know what else he wants. A licensed firearm for his son and a reprieve? Was that the reason why he came out during the last election campaign for Labour and Douglas, his bitter enemy, talking his stupidness about, I am sure Dr. Douglas did not even know Harris was cooking him. What's wrong with you, Simmons? You're begging company. Well, follow big lies and call Douglas on stage and beg him pardon too. You are one who caused Pam to lose. You have no shame sitting in Labour functions. Don't you realize that when they invite you to a Labour function, they are making a mockery of you? You joker, reads this email. This other email reads, Patches them say, no ball for who are go, ball for who are come when Unity was in power. EK used to be on his talk show bashing the past government about you can't get a gun license, but now he on social media acting like Jumbie never sees salt and take it for white sugar. Lol, reads that email. It's now 23 minutes past 23 minutes or 22 minutes before the 10 o'clock hour. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Yes, Patrick. Yeah, I'm back with me little short punch. Good night, me boy, the jam down boy. Now, Patrick, listen here. We are fighting crime in this country. And for the new year, crime has risen its ugly head again. And we know all we are in St. Kitts and Nevis, people been shot at, some dead, and some was hospitalized. And you're going to tell me that a business place, a radio station that a lot of people listen to, the DJ, whether he get a license for that gun or not, he gonna put the gun on Facebook so people all over the world can see what he's doing. Now, what example is that sending out to those already who do not respect the law and want to create havoc in the country? Even the black program come in and it helped a lot of them to condemn the foolishness, what they were doing. And a lot of them move on to their own business. So the PAP is good, it was good, and it's still good to help the youngsters and guide them. But then here comes an adult showing his gun. What I'm telling people, if he could have a gun, well, I could get mine too. But you can't everybody who could fight just boast that they could fight. I want to know what the law going to do about that. Because if a street man from one of these villages who does smoke marijuana, especially if he got lax, was doing that, or just walking in the street with the gun in his shot, and the police see them, the police will hold him and want to know what they're doing with that. That is not good. That is not a good example. People listen to radio for education, enlightenment, and then those are the things that you see upon that. Anyway, enough of that, because the government who in there, they ain't getting right. They're getting wrong, so anything that going on wrong is not too surprising for me. But righteousness and truth will get them out of India before 5 years. Because they're not in there to help the country. They're in there to fill up their long pocket and victimize people. Take vengeance after people who ain't do them nothing. That is all they're in there doing. Look at it. A lot of young people leave school last term. And where are they today? They are the ones who, some of them are the ones who went to say, get rid of them. But they ain't got a job today. Instead of them make work for the young people them who educated, bright. No, they're going to take up those who back done bend, who done retire. They could hardly lift up their left foot and mark time. Some of them, when they go anywhere, they must stand up asleep. How they tired. Take them back in the service. What happened to the young people them? The young people are the future of tomorrow. Those are the ones who have the majority to vote to put a government in there. And this is what you're doing to them. This is what you're doing to the country. Let me tell everybody this. Do not be afraid to speak out against wrong. Because they who are doing the wrong, they're not afraid to do it to you all. And we need to go on the street. Who can walk, who can walk, drive, who can't drive in wheelchair. We need to demonstrate and show them we ain't living with this no more. Thank you, Patches. I'll be back.
So, my brother, thank you for your intervention, your contributions all the time. We know that you are patriotic to the bone. Patches, are you surprised by the lack of response from the St. Kitts Nevis Bar Association? This is precisely why the general public does not have any confidence in the legal profession, specifically or in lawyers generally. Now that we see that Garth Wilkin will not be held accountable, then it is obvious to conclude that lawyers, whether it be Powell or Grant or Wilkin, will continue to be permitted to do as they like, when they like. The Bar Association is a farce and nothing more than an instrument of protection of its members, not the public, reads that email. Good night, Mr. Liburn. 2 safety fundamentals of handling firearms are: 1, always believe that the firearm is loaded. 2, always point the firearm in a safe direction. But Patches, I saw the radio DJ in the studio pointing the firearm nozzle towards his own face while he peeped inside of it. As simple as it may seem, that was a very dangerous mistake, whether or not the firearm was loaded, unloaded, or unsafety or of safety. But Patches, as Ike does say, St. Kitts ain't really a place, reads that email. Good night, Patches. Good night, Patches. I'll read this again. It is it's such an embarrassment to hear what Drew is doing down Social Security. The man Hamilton is so correct. Drew is doing things any old how. There is no good governance or transparency in the labor actions. They tossed out your daughter, they tossed out the director with no care for the law. I hope that all these persons take Social Security to court. I hope those 54 businesses that Leon Charles is taking to court vote out Labour come next election. There is no good governance down Social Security. I hope people get their benefits because the new board has no credibility. Reads this email. My Swiss Rock family, it's 15 before 10 o'clock, 9:45 on the dot. If you have joined me belatedly, tonight we are discussing, and our discussion tonight, our thesis tonight is captioned, or under the caption, "An unprepared leader, the Federation just cannot follow." And I introduced the program or the topic tonight by intimating that any country, or rather that a leader that any country cannot follow, is a leader who lacks the qualities of good leadership. I also referred to his latest book entitled Leadership. I think it was just released 8 months ago or more. At age 98 years old, Henry Kissinger, Nobel Peace Prize winning and former U.S. Secretary of State, opined that perhaps more than any time since the age of enlightenment, the world is entering a period of disruption that needs thoughtful leaders. And we can think about it. We can think about the issues or the war now in Ukraine. You can think of its derivative, inflation and what have you, the bank issues in the US. But let's go to the lines and I'll come back to that. Caller, you are live.
Thank you for allowing me, Brother Patches.
My pleasure, sir.
I would like to ask you a question. Sorry to deviate from the topic that you announced, but I have done a little survey in respect to the PAP program, and I was wondering if there was a publication with the rules and guidance to the general public in respect to the employees, the private sector, who will entertain help and understanding to the workers that seek a job going through the PAP program. I've met a couple of people who I met a couple of people who claim that they registered with the PAP program.
Yeah, but the PAP,
and they have not.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The PAP program has nothing to do with employers. It's a poverty alleviation program, which has...
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm using PAP for STEP.
STEP, okay.
Talking
STEP,
about...
yeah, the STEP program.
Okay, okay. I meant to say STEP. I've met a couple of people who claim they register with the STEP program, and they've been registered for a long time, and they have not gotten a call or if there are any vacancy wherever it should be. Also, I actually went to find out from a part of the source, a representative of the source for that program. And they are confused politically if they have not been called for a job because it is political or their application is a selfish choice, why they are not in call. But I need to make correction. Should there be publication or a broadcast of the rules and regulations for the program? Some people don't realize that if they register to the program, they must check in to find out if there are vacancies. And because there are no contacts from the agency, they felt like it's a political whiplash towards them. Now, I believe you know about this program more than I, but tell it to the federation to make it correct, because I empathize with the workers in the office who represent the STEP program. They are in a very dangerous hot seat where people retaliate against them, but they are innocent because people think once they register that the manager in the office is one why they're not getting a job. I represented a lady today, and I just needed to know what is the rules and regulations. But due to the fact that you have that podium, that platform, can you explain it so that these people could understand and who need to understand?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the SEP program was never intended to be an infinite program, that I know, right? I don't even know what the numbers are now on STEP, right? But in the private sector, if you were placed in the private sector, it was like anticipated that once you would have performed in the private sector, then whichever company you were attached to would eventually take you over and put you on their wage bill. Because it's I never understood why would government have to pay for someone working in TDC and working for 2 years and so on, right? But I know the numbers just before Team Unity, the demise of Team Unity, and then the numbers were going to be made, a certain number were going to be made permanent on the permanent establishment. Well, not the permanent establishment, we're going to be as auxiliary workers, but given the same status as in terms of permanence, so they can get job letters and things like that. But I tell you quite honest, I don't know what's the current disposition now, because so many things are out of whack in terms of this administration. But I do not believe, I stand to be corrected, but I do not believe that the government would forever keep that STEP program, because it's not sustainable, quite frankly.
Well, in my view, that I get an understanding today. Like I said, I need people to know how the program works. It's something like an agency collecting names by the government to put people in jobs. But most of the jobs come from the private sector, private sector. And if one registers with the agency and a private sector...
I'm sorry again to interrupt you, but you don't need to register with STEP. You register with the Labour Department. The Labour Department seems to be the appropriate agency to do that, not STEP.
Okay. Am I correct with the Labour Department is close to the post office?
I don't know exactly where they're located now, quite frankly, to be honest with you.
I went to a building close to the post office, and they represented the STEP. I don't know if that's the Labour Department.
I don't know, but...
all right. Let me just say what I found.
Yeah, but make it quickly, because I want to wind up now. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. I am against the fact that the government has to pay 100% plus the social security for anyone seeking help on that program. I think
the government is giving away too much free money to the employers. The employer should put at least 50%, and the STEP program put 50%. Not all of that coming from the government. That is too cheap and too low, and that will be a gap in the government budget. I think 50% can be given somewhere else in a governmental program and share it to 100%.
Okay.
And it is only fair and just. But why they are looking for 100%? What is their contribution to the government in respect to government paying 100% and they're giving nothing? And they're getting free labor. I mean, come on, people. I think that is dishonest.
Okay.
So they got to revisit that program. And every employer who needs a help, they should put 50%. And I stand behind it. And I'm not going to change it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your input as well. I just got information that the STEP is a building where Inland Revenue was, wherever that is, right? I think that's it. But as I said to you, the STEP program was really intended to be organized on a temporal basis, but it came permanent for some time because obviously had 1,000 on that program. But let's take about 2 more calls before I wrap. Caller, you live. I'm going to guide you.
Patches.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Patches, I'm sorry that so much time wasted you here because so many things to say tonight. That email that you read about the first Prime Minister, that everything Labour got hideous. Maybe you're free to go anywhere, but you must remember that was the same Labour which for Battle and Stone disrespect his position in the country as Prime Minister. For Battle and Stone to get him out, they could not wait for the elections. And like my good friend and brother, he has gone to his grave, Mr. Richard Keynes. He told me that same Labour leader refused to pay Dr. Simmons what rightfully belongs to him, and is at a meeting in Antigua where OECS ministers and whatnot, when they heard what was going on, they step into it and they say, no, that is wrong. And then he never get no kind of honor until Unity come in, make him a national hero. And then now you're gonna tell me what is Dr. Simon looking? Company? Dr. Simon that turned away a lot of PAM people. PAM people ain't do them nothing, just like PLP people ain't do them nothing. And they turn them away. Remember that my cousin-in-law in Sandy Point, Mistress Cindy, them in Noyos. Look what they fire the woman, forthwith, and she ain't do them nothing. And Cindy is a big supporter of PAM. She work hard for PAM. But anyway, okay. I don't want to keep up much time. Yeah, Patches?
Okay, my brother.
So have a good night, Patches, until.
Have a good night as well. It's now 3 minutes before the 10 o'clock hour. I'll perhaps squeeze in one more call if that caller gets in just before I complete this email, which reads, Patches, I think this government should be charged with crimes against humanity. The way this government is treating poor people in this country, it's a shame and disgrace. Some people were getting a food voucher. They took it away. Some people need to get assistance with the PAP. They're not getting it. This government is very wicked and heartless. The money in the treasury is not theirs. It is the people's money. We need to get rid of these people, for it is clear they don't know what they are doing. We need Timothy Harris back. Very interesting email as I wind down tonight's program in my Straight Dog family. I met an old man, an elder, on Saturday. Haven't seen him for a long time. And he said, when Joe is going to talk to the Prime Minister? And I was a bit lost. I said, beg pardon? He said, when Dr. Joe is going to talk to the Prime Minister? I said, isn't Dr. Joe is the Prime Minister? I said, no. He said, no. When Dr. Joe going to put his pride aside and talk to Prime Minister Harris, because he do not know what he is doing. Imagine, he said, I've lost my benefits on PAP for 6 months. And I went to the office and they said to me I should have registered online. He said, poor me, 89 years old, what I mean about internet, he said. He said, but you could get somebody to do it for you. He said, but it may cost more than the little $500 you gave me. And then he said, they are going to put you on, they told him, beg your pardon, it's going to be on a temporary basis, only for 6 months. He said, why? He said, but after that, you're going to get food vouchers. And he said to them, so what you tell me? If I have enough food and I want to buy a pair of shoes, should I walk barefooted? He said, I never answered him. But there's so many issues with this PAP. And there's so many issues with this government. And I said, as I said in the beginning, the leader, we have an unprepared leader that this country, this federation just cannot follow. A leader that any country cannot follow is one who lacks the qualities of a good leader. I refer to the book entitled Leadership by Henry Kissinger, the 98-year-old Nobel Peace Prize winning and former U.S. Secretary of State, who wrote that perhaps more than any time since the Age of Enlightenment, the world is entering a period of disruption that needs thoughtful leaders. And the internet is not helping to produce them. When I read the letter, my mind flashed on the Jew Labor Administration, whose members seem to be hooked on the internet, and we refer to them pretty early as the Facebook government. But more than that, however, Prime Minister Joe seemed to have immediately buried his head into the sand. And I say the sand of reality, I may add, whenever he discussed the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. After the first 7 months, it can be predicted that the results will be disastrous for our two beautiful islands unless the cabinet takes needed steps to alter its current course. 3 of the early characteristics of the Prime Minister include the fact that he's economic with the truth. He's a divisive leader, and he often speaks from a point of ignorance. Prime Minister Joe, in my view, inherited a political situation in which the leadership of one of the most, if not the most successful administrations in the history of this federation self-imploded because of power and greed. And I know that some of you feel upset or get annoyed with that view, or with the view on the success of the Team Unity administration. But if you take umbrage with that fact, then you must provide the evidence to the contrary. And no one did for tonight. Because whenever we hear, whether we like to hear it or not, it was Prime Minister Harris who navigated the Federation out of its economic doldrums. It was Harris who paid off the balance remaining on the IMF loan, which was approved in this July 2011. It was under the Team Unity administration that the murder rate came down from the high of 35 to 11 or 12 in 2022. How could we forget that, my Straight Talk family? How could we forget the successful build-out of programs in support of the Alternative Lifestyle Pathway Program? I understand that the current Prime Minister and Minister of National Security is not speaking with the consultant who is on contract and is bringing some consultant from St. Lucia. I understand that he has not even dealt with the committee. I think it's called the IET. But my Straight Talk family, how could we forget the management of COVID? But no matter what is said, the majority of us in St. Kitts thank the Team Unity administration for the Life First strategy it introduced during COVID, my Straight Talk family. That was a snapshot I provided tonight because our current leaders are obviously unwilling to recognize the importance of history. And I submit that leaders like Prime Minister Drew, who think that history must be totally changed, are usually the ones who bring more suffering to the people. He's economic with the truth. Remember, he said that nothing happened for 7 years under Team Unity.
We have been getting calls, lots of calls, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I imagine in other parts of the world, it is day when it is the 4 in the morning here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have been bombarded by persons who are interested in investing in St. Kitts and Nevis. And of note, we have not seen any significant major investment in the last 7 years. And therefore, I think our people must know that people are ready to invest in St. Kitts and Nevis again.
Imagine that. And he claimed his word is his bond. But how could his word be his bond? When in opposition he said people should be taken to court on the prison project for a crime. He said that, my Straight Talk family.
The prison project alone is providing $2 billion that can lift everybody in poverty in St. Kitts and Nevis out of poverty. But that's a whole other big scandal by itself. The passports belong to the people. That money should be used for the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. Over $2 billion, that is a crime. It is a crime that the government is committing. That is a crime. Somebody needs to be brought to the court for that. It is not right that something like that should happen.
But should we take Prime Minister Drew to the court for a crime? Because he has signed over 3,000 certificates of registration on the same prison project.
Now, the prison project is what we inherited. That had been signed by the previous administration. Of course, we thought that it would have been better to do housing than to go to a prison. Not that a prison is not important, but that was inherited.
That's his claim now for inheritance. But he's a divisive leader as well, because scores of high-level civil servants have been sent home with immediate effect by the new Jew Labour administration. His campaign mantra, get rid of them, he has taken right into government. In a very divisive political campaign, Dr. Drew demonized all who oppose him. And since coming into office, he has signaled a clear intention that his new Labour administration will not unify and heal this country, but he will surely divide it. Democracy and good governance are once again under threat. He speaks from a point of ignorance. When I ask by my friend who prepares my prime minister. He told me to listen to an interview with Callister Farrier on The View. I listened because I wanted to speak from a position of authority. And when the interview was completed, I asked myself, what did Prime Minister Drew say? He went back to his road march about deficit. Deficit he inherited, yet he paid a double salary 3 months after. When asked on the Observer radio where the money was coming from, he said he had it saved for a rainy day. When asked on The View about funding the housing program, he said he had cash in hand or cash in the bank. You know, my Stray Dog family, Prime Minister Drew comes across as someone who does not know, but he claimed that his team is filled with experts, my Stray Dog family. To many, this administration has lost favor with the voters in an expeditious manner. And it brings me to the Arabian proverb, which I leave with you tonight, my Stray Dog family. He who knows and knows that he knows is wise. Follow him. He who knows and knows not that he knows is asleep. Wake him. He who knows not and knows that he knows not is a student. Teach him. He who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. Shun him. Or we concur with the analysis of our new administration, which was given by this caller on another program, my Straight Dog family.
You know, I will tell you, I never see administration popularity wane so fast like this administration. This administration, they started off very popular, but I'm telling you, the popularity is way down right now. The Prime Minister himself, people actually now making mockery of him. After 7 short months, your popularity dropped so bad. You got to be you incompetent or something.
Well, that's an analysis of the performance of the Jew Labour administration. Here at Straight Talk, we have concluded that we have an unprepared leader the Federation just cannot follow. That's my story tonight, and I'm not going to change it. My time is done, and I've got to run. My Straight Dog family, until we connect on Thursday for another edition of Straight Talk, be good to yourselves and to all whom you meet. Remember that whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, you must believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light and thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye. Until we connect on Thursday. But how could I commit that sinful error? I must thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight. I must thank you, all of you who called. There are those who sent emails and those who listened and viewed on Facebook or Straight Talk. Remember, you are the ones who make Straight Talk, and for that reason, I say a big thank you. I'm Ian Patches Liebert, and I'm out.
The morning, I thank God for the morning light. Give Him thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night. For the rest of food and loving care, and for my mother's breath of life that's got me here. So whatever my mind conceives, that I will achieve, you better believe, because I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good.